Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Paul Varley. I'm Director of Product Management at Scribe Software. I'm joined today by Mike Bates, who's one of our software engineers. And we're going to be talking to you today about integrating with Dynamics GP 2013. We've recently introduced a new connector for GP on our Scribe online platform. And so we're going to talk about how the ways in which you'll be able to use that, and Mike is going to give you a demonstration. You can see how it works. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. You'll notice that all of the phone lines and the voice over IP links that you're using today are all muted. If you have questions, we'd invite you to go ahead and type those into the questions area of the GoToWebinar control panel, and then we'll address those at the end of the presentation. Our presentation should last about 30 minutes today, give or take, depending on how many questions we have. So that should give us enough time to get through the material. Our agenda today, we'll talk a little bit about why you might want to integrate Dynamics GP with your CRM environment or with other aspects of your business. We'll look at the new Dynamics GP connector for Scribe Online. And as I said, Mike will give you a demonstration, and then at the end, we'll take your questions. So no matter what kind of business you're in today, what industry or what size company you work for, there's sort of a common data challenge that everyone's facing, and that is, how do you get the relevant information about your customers to the right person at the right time so that that person can do his job effectively and make good decisions? And when you look at it today, customer information is spread throughout many different systems within a given organization, and this is really true no matter what size business you have, right? Even small businesses have their customer data spread out through many different places, and I think that with so many people moving to the cloud, that is actually driving things even more in that splintered situation versus having everything in one place. So you've got, of course, your Salesforce automation or customer relationship management software. You've got your accounting systems like GP and others. You've got support systems. Many companies are adopting marketing automation platforms such as ExactTarget or Marketo. And then, of course, you've got databases and text files coming from different places. And all of these different things can have information, not to mention social networks like LinkedIn and Twitter. Your customer data is spread throughout many different places. And the big challenge there is, how do you get the information that you need about your customer to the right place at the right time? And that's where Scribe comes in. We really help you to move your customer data between all these different systems so that you've got a complete and accurate picture of your customer. And in the context of Dynamics GP, most times what we're talking about is integration between GP and a customer relationship management software application like Dynamics CRM or Salesforce.com or SalesLogic, something like that. So many of the use cases that we'll talk about today will be in that domain. That's not to say that you can't do other things. Of course, we've got lots of customers who bring in transactional data into GP from billing systems or payroll systems. There are all kinds of different use cases, but we're going to focus on customer data in today's webinar. Let's talk about the value of doing data integration with Dynamics GP. Usually the two groups within your organization that are going to benefit most from this are the finance team and the sales team. From the finance team's perspective, doing integration is going to eliminate the errors that you might see when you're manually entering data in two or more places at once. By allowing you to enter at just one place and have it automatically reflected in the other place, that's just going to cut down on those human errors that crop into your data. It's going to dramatically reduce the time that finance people are going to need to spend answering research questions really about invoices, sales orders, that sort of thing, because we're going to make that information available in the CRM application so that salespeople can answer their own questions and not have to contact finance to get that. And then for customer contact information, it's going to keep that up to date and synchronized between GP and your front office applications. If you're on the sales side, It's going to allow you to get your necessary financial information about your customers all in one place. And that'll just help you to answer customer questions and help your customers more quickly and give them more accurate information, because you'll have immediate access to things like order history, invoices, sales order status, this sort of thing, all in your CRM application. You won't have to go into GP to get that. So as I said earlier, we recently introduced a connector for Dynamics GP in our Scribe Online platform. Scribe offers two products. We have Scribe Online, which is our cloud data integration platform, and Scribe Insight, which is our on-premise software application. Both of these have connectivity to Dynamics GP as well as the common CRM applications like Dynamics CRM and Salesforce. We're focusing on Scribe Online today. Scribe Online is a cloud-based data integration platform that allows you to do all of your design and administration work in the cloud. And then, as you'll see when I get to it on the next slide, you can even do integration with on-premise applications like GP, even though you're doing your administration in the cloud. So this Dynamics GP connector uses a combination of different methods to get data in and out of GP. We're using a combination of SQL for queries on the source side, and web services primarily for target operations, and then eConnect for filling in any gaps that may be there between the other two methods. Not everything is available through the web service API. In terms of support, we support Dynamics GP 2013. If you're using an earlier version of GP, then we'd encourage you to use the Scribe Insight platform instead, because it supports the older versions. And in terms of the entity support, this connector is going to give you access to your customer master entities, so customer address, that kind of thing, as well as sales order processing entities, such as a sales order, product catalog, invoices, and that kind of thing. In fact, if you have other objects that you're trying to access in GP, you can also do that through our SQL connector, because our SQL connector supports a native query capability. You can write your own queries to go directly to the GP database on the source side, and the SQL connector also supports stored procedures, so you can use the SQL connector to access stored procedures in eConnect that we don't provide today in the connector. Over time, we're going to keep adding to the capabilities of the connector. Scribe Online is on about an 8-week release cycle, and so every 8 weeks we come out with new functionality and new capabilities in the platform, and we're always extending the connectors as well. So over time, we'll broaden that capability in this entity support that we have. To give you a picture of how the Dynamics GP connector works in the context of Scribe Online, as I said, Scribe Online is a cloud data integration platform, so you can connect to it from a web browser anywhere on the internet. You'll see this when Mike gives you the demonstration. We've got this very intuitive graphical user interface. Designing maps is a matter of dragging puzzle pieces on a canvas and designing the logic of your integration. It's very straightforward and easy to use. So you go into the cloud application to do all of your design work. You schedule the integrations. You create connections for GP, Salesforce, CRM, that kind of thing. And then once all that design is complete, the cloud will send the instructions that you've defined to an agent that's going to do the work. And in the context of GP, you're going to install that agent locally on a Windows machine on your own network, and that is going to have the connector for GP as well as a connector for anything else that you're working with, databases, text files, Salesforce, Dynamics CRM, whatever. And it's going to execute the instructions that you designed. And after it's done, it'll record information about the run each time it runs, and it's going to send an execution history up to the cloud. And so you do your administration work in the cloud as well. You can set it up to send you email notifications if there are errors, and then you can go log in and look at what the errors were and rerun your rows if you want to do that. So there's a lot of flexibility there to design and administer no matter where you are on online. You don't have to be in the same location as the GP installation. So I think that is about it for the overview. Next, we want to give Mike the opportunity to show you a little bit about how this works. So I'm going to pull up his virtual machine here and give him an opportunity to go ahead and walk you through this.
All right, thanks, Paul. I'm going to go into some of the details that Paul talked about, some of the overview stuff. I'm going to hit some of the details. I'm going to start out, we'll look first at how you connect to Dynamics GP within Scribe Online. I'll take you through some of the source entities and target entities. We'll look at some of the features that are out there, some sample mappings, and I'll talk about some of the new features coming up. So as we discussed, we access Dynamics GP with a couple of different methods, using both SQL and web service. So when you make a connection to Dynamics GP, if you're going to use it as a source and a target, you would do both connections, SQL and a web service. That was for technical reasons. We have to access the source entities through the tables, the SQL tables, and the web services allow us to do some nice things with the target operations that aren't possible with the entities themselves. So you set up a connection to GP. Once you do that, you're able to create solutions. And let's just look. I have one set up here that's doing customers with Salesforce. This could be Dynamics CRM, any CRM app really. But I'm going to just create a new map for a minute here. See, we can look at the source and target. So if I pick Dynamics GP as my source, and I look at what kind of entities I can bring up. I'm also going to choose as my target for right now, just so we can get a good list of entities. So if I look at my source GP connection, I'm able to query from customer entities, invoice, all the various lines, histories, product information along with currency, sales orders. You can get units of measure. So we're currently working on a solution that moves product information into Salesforce, also does the same kind of stuff into CRM, product information into Salesforce to your CRM system, so you can create orders there. Orders can go back to GP and be processed, and then invoices can come up from GP. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit of how the customers work on that in just a second. And then target side, if we look at our GP target, it's a smaller list. We're mostly concentrating on being able to create customers, addresses, and sales orders within GP. And you're able to do that as well as we do have, this is our first connector that also provides a custom operation block, which is a void block. So we have our standard create, update, delete, and so on. But we also provide a void, so you can actually void just a sales order within GP as well. Let's look at our supported entities for right now. There's also, we've built in a couple of nice features specifically for working with Dynamics GP, and we'll show that in here in the source entities. We've added an entity here called item unit price by method. This is not a standard entity in Dynamics GP. We provided it so that you can get out calculated unit prices from GP if you want to move pricing to another system. It takes a set of input parameters, which we describe, and it will give you unit price on a product based on a pricing method. So it makes it very nice for moving pricing into another system to allow your salespeople to create orders with up-to-date pricing. And then looking a little more at the maps we're actually working on, one other feature we add that's GP specific, and I am looking at a newer version of Scribe Online. If you're familiar with it, we now have a group block that we're going to be adding, so I made use of that. But one feature we add when you're creating a customer, Dynamics GP, you can provide a key for the customer. So we directly have the web service provides a key ID, which goes into the customer number field in GP. But we also provide 2 extra fields so that you can auto-generate an ID, because presumably you're probably not going to map IDs straight from one system to the other. You can have Dynamics GP generate the IDs, or we provide a function that will generate the IDs if you give it a prefix and a number of digits that you want to be at the end of your customer name. And we'll see an example of that in a second. Okay, so this map, what we're going to do, I'm going to create a customer in my Salesforce system. Again, it could be Dynamics CRM, but the main point is we're going to create that back in Dynamics GP. And if we look at Salesforce, so I've got to jump on this. I started creating the customer, so we didn't have to see here while I typed in the whole thing. I'm just creating a basic customer. I'm giving it our address. Say I've got a different address for our shipping. We ship to a different address here at Scribe, let's say, or wherever we are. Mostly the same. And then I haven't saved this yet, so we'll save this off. And we're going to kick off this solution instance, which will run these 3 maps. The only one I'm really concerned about is I've just created a customer in Salesforce. It's going to send it back to GP. So let me just kick that off. And then just while that's starting up, we'll go back into the map that's going to run. So again, we're running this Salesforce to GP customer share. And really what that's going to do, it's going to create my customer in GP. Right after it does that, it back populates the ID that we assigned to it with those custom fields that I showed you. It's going to put that back into my Salesforce customer. And then it's going to go on and create my addresses based on what I've populated in Salesforce. In my case, I've got both addresses, so they'll both go over to Dynamics GP. So I think now if we come back to my account, I go back into here. It's been integrated to GP, so I have my GP ID that got generated with my nice custom GP fields that we have. And then if I look at my GP system, I've got Aaron Fitz here. If I refresh this list at the top, we'll see my company. And I've created my billing address as 715. My shipping address, if we look at my addresses, I've got the 2 addresses, the billing, the shipping at 1500. Suppose I'm a GP user and I go, oh, my Salesforce user got this wrong. The shipping address really is the same as the billing address. So I can come in here, change my shipping to my billing. We save that. And then again, I'm going to kick off the solution instance. You most likely would have this on a timed run. I'm just going to kick it off manually for this. And again, while that's starting up, we'll just go in. And so this, in this case, is going to be the GP to Salesforce. It's going to do an upsert into Salesforce. Again, I'm pulling across my customer, and again, I'm really just basing what I do in GP on what addresses I have in Salesforce. So it's whether it has both addresses, just a bill to, and a ship to. And that's going to go create, update my Salesforce system. So as we recall, we had a 1750 and a 1500 Elm Street. We wanted to update that to make the addresses match. So if I just refresh that, we should have a match. Now both my billing and my shipping are the same address. So we have that, it's two-way capability, move the data back and forth. Very easy to go into Scribe and map logic. Very good commenting capabilities. Again, some of these group blocks that you see in the blue, those are upcoming. A really nice feature. You can really kind of write out a story as to what's happening in the map itself. That's basically what happens for creating a map, how you move data into and out of GP at a basic level. We're adding a couple of new features right now that is within the next couple of weeks, we're going to be putting out a release, an update of this connector, and we're going to be adding some very useful features for integration, which are, if you're familiar with GP, GP does not provide a last modified date time. So we're adding to the entities that we support the ability to do what we call a last run date or a high water mark and figure out, run records that have been changed since the last modified date time. In GP, since they only provide a date and no time, it's only effective once a day. So we've added in fields to all of our entities that can allow you to make use of that feature in Scribe more frequently. And another thing that is not normally provided in Dynamics GP is a last modified by. So again, any entities that we support are going to support that field, so you can have an ignore user. So maps running into Dynamics GP would run as a particular user, and then when you query data out of GP, you can ignore changes made by that user, so you don't have round tripping of data. So that's really that's the basics of the GP connector, existing features, upcoming features. I think I've covered it. Paul, anything else?
No, I think that's great. Thanks, Mike.
All right.
So we'll go back to our presentation for just a minute, and then we'll take your questions. So if you have questions about anything I said or anything that Mike showed you, please go ahead and enter those into the GoToWebinar control panel so that we can take those questions in a few minutes. The last thing I really wanted to cover before we get to those questions is how you can try this out for yourself. We do offer a free trial of Scribe Online. It's a 15-day trial, and you can follow that link from our website to sign up. We have someone here who can even help you get started if you're interested in using the GP connector. He can help you work through that configuration. His name's Nate Keefe. And after you sign up for Scribe Online, you'll want to install the Dynamics GP connector from the Scribe Online marketplace. It's included in the sense that we don't charge anything extra for the connectors, but you do go ahead and install that into your agent so that you can use it. Once that's done, you can then go ahead and start designing the maps like Mike was just showing you and give it a try for yourself. So with that, I think I will go ahead and mention that if you want some more information, we do have a little bit more information on our website. So you can follow that URL or send an email to our sales team at that email address. And now let me just open up the questions that you have, and we can start taking a look at those. All right. So the first question, is it possible to set up the connection for GP without using the SA login for SQL?
Absolutely. The source connection to GP can be any valid GP user. I'm just using that in my map development.
Okay. Next question. This question is actually about Insight, so I think we should just make sure everybody is aware of that. Even though this webinar is about Scribe Online, there's a question about Insight here, which is, can Scribe Insight GP adapter handle custom entities in GP 2013? I don't know if you know that off the top of your head, Mike. If not, we could follow up with this person.
Right now, neither. Well, let's see. Insight, by custom entities, so if we're talking about tables, sure. If you're in Insight, the connection to GP is all SQL. So we should be able to see any tables that are out there. We cannot in Insight connect to the web services that are in 2013, so we wouldn't see custom web services, but any custom tables or whatever that would be in the SQL database, yes, we can see those.
Okay. Next question. You've shown entities with the customer master. How about other master data sets like field service contract and service cases or calls? Can it be extended to do this? And then online or Insight. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier in the webinar is that, especially if you're dealing with things on the source side, we do have a native query support in the SQL connector that will allow you to get at some of these other entities that are not supported directly in the connector. For the target side, I suppose it would depend on what you can do with the stored procedures. And I will say that Insight does have a longer list of entities that are supported. So anything that you're not able to work with in online, you're most likely going to be able to do in Insight. All right, so the next question, can Mike show us the steps to adding the connector? Show us how easy this is. Sure, I think we could do that. Let's just call up the Scribe Online. In fact, I'll even do this. That's how easy it is.
That's right.
So I did mention this earlier, but all we really need to do is go here on the left-hand side. There's this Marketplace tab that shows you all of the different connectors that we have that you can add. So we've got things like Exact Target, Marketo, GoToWebinar, QuickBooks, and so forth. And it's let's see.
It's already installed.
It's already installed. So you see right here where it says Dynamics GP. This one is already installed, but you would go ahead, if you had a new account, this would say install. You would click that and it would install it. It's kind of a one-click type of thing. Very straightforward. All right, next one. What are the next GP modules you are developing for? So we've been listening to feedback from customers and partners. I would say the area that we're going to focus on next has to do with the general ledger. So we're going to be doing things like accounts receivable, accounts payable, and that sort of thing. Because the other main use case that we're looking at, as opposed to the CRM integration, is to bring transactional data into GP from things like billing systems and payroll systems and so forth. And so that's the next area of focus that we have. So next question, if I have Microsoft's Dynamics CRM and GP on-premise, is there some benefit to Scribe Online? Yeah, I think the biggest benefit to Scribe Online, I guess I should say that with whether you're doing CRM online or on-premise, Dynamics CRM online or on-premise, and integrating with GP, you can use either products. Either one will work, regardless of whether CRM is online or on-prem. I think the main advantage of Scribe Online is in terms of ease of use. You know, it's very easy to design maps. It's easy for the second person coming in, looking at a map to understand what's going on. I think the usability is just a level above what we have in Insight. And also, like I said earlier, we are continuously adding to new things to the Scribe Online platform. Because it's cloud-based, it's very easy for us to add new functionality. We come out with new features about every 8 weeks. And of course, you don't need a server. The agent runs as a Windows service, so it's a much lighter weight installation than Insight, which pretty much requires its own machine. So I guess those are the reasons that I would encourage you to at least consider using Scribe Online for any kind of CRM to GP integration. Let's see. So the next question, does your connector on the CRM side use SQL or web service to read and write data? So in that case, we're using the web service API for CRM, even though this webinar is primarily about GP. The question was about CRM, and we're not using SQL for that one. Right. Someone asked about pricing. So the way that Scribe Online pricing works is based on an annual contract for a number of rows processed in a year. There are actually two services in Scribe Online. There's a replication service, which is aimed at replicating your either Dynamics CRM or Salesforce data to a local database. And the one that we're really looking at here is the integration service. And that's more of a two-way integration platform that has lots of different connectors like the ones we're showing in the marketplace here. So it's a monthly subscription based on a number of rows processed per year. And if you're interested, we can have our sales folks contact you to walk through the specific scenario, that the systems that you're integrating, and we'll help you figure out which tier of service you would be in. All right, so the next question, does Scribe Online have capabilities to execute Visual Basic scripting? It doesn't today that I'm aware of. The way that we normally talk about extending the Scribe Online platform is through what we call the Connector Development Kit. So we have an SDK, if you will, we call it the CDK, that allows you to build your own connector for Scribe Online. I don't know whether that's what you were thinking about, but that's really the way that we provide that you can extend this. So if you look in our marketplace, we have all these different connectors available, but you can also build your own connector if you're trying to integrate with something that we don't provide a connector for. All right. So there's some questions about other applications like Peachtree accounting. Right now, we don't have any plans to build connectors for that, but I would certainly encourage you to consider building one, especially if you're a partner who works in that ecosystem. It's not difficult to build a connector, and we can walk you through what it takes to use the CDK to build your own connector. Right, so I think the questions are starting to trail off now. We're at the top of the hour. I'll give people just one more minute to enter any last-minute questions that you might have, and otherwise we will sign off. I'm not seeing any other questions, so we'll wrap it up here. Thank you for joining the webinar today, and we look forward to talking to you again on the next Scribe webinar.